Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're exploring a truly fascinating paper by Haniel Buck, titled Phase Wave Determinism as a Locked Vacuum Framework. Now, I want you to think of today's journey not as just reading through a standard physics textbook, but as inspecting an energetic, incredibly precise architectural blueprint. We're going to look at the structural foundations of the universe itself, and examine how some of the absolute most stubborn mysteries in fundamental physics might actually be built from the exact same microscopic materials. Okay, let's dive into this highly organized blueprint and outline exactly what we'll inspect today. First, 3 massive mysteries. Then, the PWD architecture. From there, Channel 1, induced gravity, and Channel 2, vacuum energy. Next, the bridge connecting them, and finally, the unfinished blueprint. Starting with Section 1, 3 massive mysteries: gravity, vacuum energy, and singularities. Think of the universe's biggest mysteries almost like isolated clues scattered at a crime scene. For decades, physicists have been trying to make sense of these clues, but they almost always treat them as entirely separate cases. To kick things off, consider this highly provocative question. Why is gravity so incredibly weak compared to other fundamental forces? I mean, a tiny little magnet can pick up a paperclip, entirely overpowering the gravitational pull of the entire planet Earth. Why is that? This glaring weakness is our first major puzzle, and it's baffled scientists for a very long time. In fact, gravity's weakness is really just one of the 3 deepest open problems in fundamental physics. The second is dark energy, specifically the origin of the small but non-zero vacuum energy density that's expanding our universe. And third, the persistence of singular behavior. Think of the infinitely dense singularities predicted inside black holes by classical general relativity. Now, usually, physics tries to solve these 3 problems in completely disconnected theoretical worlds, right? You have quantum gravity for singularities, hidden sectors for gravity's weakness, and cosmological tuning for vacuum energy. But what if they aren't separate problems at all? Moving to Section 2, the PWD architecture and the shift to a channel registry. So, instead of treating these mysteries in completely disconnected languages, Phase Wave Determinism, or PWD, introduces a massive paradigm shift. It treats these issues not as different worlds, but as 3 distinct channels broadcasting from the exact same hidden source. Gravity, vacuum energy, and singularity defocusing are totally recast as specific infrared outputs of a single, deeply unified structure. So what exactly is it? Well, phase wave determinism is formally defined as a locked, hidden, or phase vacuum framework organized by a channel registry. Notice how careful the author is here. This is not some loose, speculative narrative claiming a single magic field explains everything just by coincidence. No, it's a rigorous, highly structured mathematical blueprint. It actually demands that the physics must work through explicit, calculable channels driven by a globally coherent phase field. This concept acts as the ultimate foundation. A single, locked, hidden, or phase vacuum serves as the common microscopic backbone. It utilizes topological locking alongside an anomaly and renormalization group structure. And the big takeaway here is that from this single origin point, all 3 infrared outputs, gravity, dark energy, and singularity resolution, will ultimately emerge. Let's look at Section 3, Channel 1, induced gravity, also known as the tensor channel. In the PWD framework, gravitational weakness isn't just an arbitrarily tiny number typed into an equation by hand to make the math work. Instead, a hidden sector, specifically a non-abelian hidden gauge sector, transmits discrete topological data via a 1-instanton or defect saddle to create the induced gravitational hierarchy. Put simply, gravity is incredibly weak because it is the deeply suppressed, non-perturbative echo of a hidden vacuum sector. And the framework backs this up with stunning quantitative power. By feeding the structural anomaly and topological locking data into the equation, the one-loop benchmark output for Newton's constant is calculated at 6.6867 times 10 to the negative 11. Now, what is absolutely incredible about this specific mathematical output is that it sits within just 0.186% of the CO data 2022 reference value for gravity. So the framework isn't just philosophical, it's generating highly accurate physical constants. Section 4, Channel 2, Vacuum Energy, or the Neutral Topological Channel. The architecture actually splits into 2 branches here. On one side, the neutral topological channel yields vacuum energy. Because a single instanton carries fermion zero modes, it actually can't directly create a bosonic vacuum. It requires a neutral composite like a neutral baryon.
When calculated, this outputs a vacuum energy benchmark of 2.49 times 10 to the negative 47 GeV to the fourth, which is a razor-thin 0.4 sigma offset from astronomical observations. And on the other side, we have the phase stress branch. This acts as our third pillar. In regimes of extreme gravity, where standard relativity predicts an infinitely dense point, this branch of the effective stress tensor pushes back, successfully defocusing high-curvature singularities. It's one underlying system solving two massive problems simultaneously. Pretty amazing.
Bringing us to Section 5, the bridge connecting them via the neutral baryon double matching program. So, how exactly does the author mathematically prove that these channels are truly broadcasting from the same source? Well, enter the rigorous mathematical bridge connecting them. The scaling formulas are key. The tensor channel for gravity scales by a suppression factor of e to the minus s instanton, but the neutral channel for vacuum energy scales by e to the minus 2s instanton. So the crucial point here is that gravity and vacuum energy aren't just coincidentally small numbers floating out in space. Vacuum energy is mathematically tied to gravity as a topologically neutral descendant squared by the exact same suppression factors. To ensure this isn't just some vague claim, the author deliberately compresses this diffuse philosophical narrative into a precise physical 5-part checklist. This is the reduced bridge ledger. It literally forces the unified theory to pass through 5 specific ratio tests between the gravity and vacuum channels, comparing determinants, coordinates, zero modes, vacuums, and locking structures. When evaluated, this reduced bridge kernel is heavily constrained and centers perfectly on unity. It proves the channels are deeply mathematically bound together. And finally, Section 6, the unfinished blueprint. What remains open? As we move to our final inspection of this blueprint, it's absolutely crucial to honor the author's strict scientific boundaries and explicit humility. Listen carefully to how the author frames this. PWD should presently be understood not as a finished unified field theory, but as a sharply organized locked vacuum framework. I love that. It builds immense trust. True science carefully separates what is structurally derived from what remains open. The author isn't declaring victory and going home. They're presenting a hyper-structured foundation that makes explicit exactly what work is left to do. And what is that remaining work? Well, the author outlines highly localized, falsifiable microscopic targets. We need the explicit compact BF ultraviolet realization to completely close the locking sector. We need absolute from-scratch determinant normalization, and we need the final path integral evaluation of that reduced bridge kernel we were just talking about. These are the specific, actionable tasks required to upgrade this incredible blueprint from a framework into a completed, final theory of everything. And that leaves us right here. The mysteries of gravity, dark energy, and singularities have been given a deeply unified mathematical channel registry. The architecture is sound. The benchmarks match reality with stunning precision. The blueprint is drawn. Who will build the rest of the bridge? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this leaves you as curious and inspired about the unfolding future of fundamental physics as I am.